As I try to keep up with the large number of anime being released nowadays, one thing I'm constantly being reminded of is that most of these anime lack originality. In one corner, you've got the generic, overpowered protagonist slaying his enemies from the very first episode itself, or on the other romance corner, you've got the main character who keeps blushing the entire season and is completely oblivious that the girl likes him. But along comes an anime that blasts off the shackles of the anime community with its original premise or its original characters. This season, it was Decadence, and in previous seasons, it was anime like The Promised Neverland, Re:Zero, Castlevania, Mob Psycho, or Violet Evergarden. All of these are new anime, but there are still enough old anime to beat more than half of these new anime in terms of storytelling. And today I want to talk about one such anime. An anime that made me actually binge an entire season of it just because of its suspenseful story, its originality, or the cliffhangers that beg you to click that next episode button on Netflix. Yes, today I'm going to speak of a psychological horror anime, an anime that will make a lasting impact on you, and an anime that can be considered as the archetype of the horror niche. With a new remake just around the corner, let's explore what's so good about Higurashi When They Cry. So let's start off with the story, which is one of the main strengths of this anime. The story happens in a small rural fictional village in Japan known as Hinamizawa. Our main character of the first season is Keiichi Maebara, who recently got transferred to the village with his family. He soon befriends several other children of his age. You've got the silent girl Reina Ryugu, the charismatic club leader Mion Sonozaki, her twin sister Shion, and two other girls named Rika Furude and Satoko Hojo. The village holds an annual festival known as the Watanagashi to commemorate a local deity in the name of Oyashiro. Now here's where the mystery kicks in. Keiichi soon learns that in all the 4 previous years, a few people have been killed or disappeared after the festival. The locals name this the Oyashiro curse and call it as the wrath of their god for breaking their laws. The 2 victims of this year are a freelance photographer named Jiro Tomitake, who for some reason had clawed his own throat with his bare hands, and the other victim, Mio Takano, a nurse in the village clinic whose body was somehow burnt. Keiichi soon realizes that his 4 friends are somehow linked to the mysteries happening in the village. Several episodes later, we're told of the disappearance of Satoko's brother, who Shion was in love with. There's also a story that runs parallel to the main story and happens several years later. It's about the investigation of the release of swamp gas which has killed the entire village. As you can see, there are quite a lot of mysteries involved at this point, and this is why when you first dive into the story, everything may seem incoherent. New mysteries are introduced each and every 5 minutes in the first couple of episodes, and combine it with the addition of new characters at each arc, and everything may seem like a disaster in your perspective. This is what I first felt as well when I first watched it, and I always wondered what I got myself into. You've got mass murderers, arcs ending without any explanation, characters behaving in ways that have never been anticipated, and then comes a certain arc that just spins your head another 180. It happens shortly after the middle of the season, and this is the arc that sheds some lights on these events. After finishing that certain arc, you begin to see things in a new perspective and wonder whether all of the previous plot twists had a credible reason. This is where Higurashi excels in its narration. Higurashi doesn't follow a linear story structure, and the main reason for this is because it's based on a visual novel. It's common in visual novels to have roots, and for each root to focus on a certain character. Similar to that, the anime season is divided into story arcs, and each arc focuses on one of the main characters. The first arc is about Keiichi discovering the mystery behind his friends, the second is about the 2 sisters Shion and Mion, and the third is about Satoko, and the very last arc of the season revolves around the reactions of Reina. Having an arc for each character or incident also helps the writers to build the mystery centered around the village. In the original visual novel, the arcs are divided into 2. The first 4 arcs of the story are called the question arcs. These are the arcs that build up the mystery of the Oyashiro curse and introduce us to the faces of many integral characters. The rest of the arcs are called the answering arcs. These arcs slowly provide the answers to the mystery that was built up in the previous arcs. These are played in the perspective of the other characters, and Keiichi is just a secondary character in these storylines. Since these are told through the eyes of others, this helps us to slowly understand several queer and peculiar things that happened in the previous arcs, and it also sheds some light on the much larger mystery that surrounds the Hinamizawa village. Now, before talking more about the anime, I want to dive into the very thing that it excels at: the horror factor. Okay, I'm gonna be honest here. Before watching Higurashi, I never thought that anime could excel in horror. Sure, anime can make you cry, it can make you depressed, it can make you laugh, but can several animated figures actually generate horror? Anime's a medium of escapism, a medium we use to detach ourselves from reality and indulge in something we subconsciously know isn't possible. So wouldn't we deny anime horror the same way? The answer's yes. But ghosts walking in corridors and your dead grandmother coming back to haunt you at night, they aren't the only ways you can experience horror. There's another completely different niche of horror that Higurashi explores: creepiness. Now, I know that word may not sound so horrifying, but you just have to watch a single episode of the story to deny that theory. Higurashi has mystery weaved through its narrative from the start, and this mystery is what the show uses to generate that creepiness. You end each episode with a weird feeling in your gut. You know you aren't scared, but there's still the lingering thought of something scary in your mind. This is what I'd like to call great psychological horror. Instead of just showing sequences of horrifying scenes, Higurashi explores the unexplored avenues of horror and subtly lets your mind do the rest. There were some episodes that left me feeling genuinely disturbed about what happened, and some actually managed to creep me out. It's difficult to articulate the feeling of watching Higurashi, but if you do want an example, think of the disturbing ending of the anime School Days. Now amplify that feeling a few notches, and then you've got just a touch of what it feels like to watch Higurashi. Another great thing about this anime, it doesn't solely rely on horror and mystery to move the story forwards. Each arc has an underlying theme that's tied around a certain main character, and what's so good about it is that each of these is relatable to the target audience. There's the theme of family, friendship, love, and even more darker themes like domestic abuse, parent-child issues, genocide, and shows how quickly one can break their minds and lose their sanity. Since the story is divided into arcs, it's easy to focus on each theme instead of jumbling everything at once. This also makes it easier to flesh out characters and give them their own moments to shine, or in Higurashi terms, psychologically fall down, as each arc only focuses on one character. But in the end, Higurashi as a whole revolves around the theme of friendship and the ability to have faith in others, even at desperate times. There's even a running gag among the community that best friends are the people who help you to hide the dead body of your murder victim. You might not understand that now, but you'll surely do at the end of the first season. The story setting is also so well crafted, since it genuinely gives you that rural Japanese village feeling as you move through the story. The people in the village have their own deities, their own political structure, their own beliefs and fears, and what they hate more than anything is the interference of outsiders. The story is at times narrated through the eyes of Keiichi and Reina, both outsiders of the village. Sometimes they find several customs of the village rather horrifying or even as diabolical compared to characters like Mion and Rika, who originally grew up in the village. Another thing I like about the story is how it expands its scope slowly through the narrative. At first it may seem like the incidents in the village are limited to the village, but soon you're shown several external forces that affect the fate of the village, and each of these are even weaved in an extremely realistic way. When it comes to the mystery, the show takes turns to justify each character's viewpoint, so as the viewer, we're genuinely mystified on who to believe and who to ignore. In other words, that's masterful writing. If you're a horror fan with a stomach for gore, then wait no more. This is the anime for you. Beware about what you watch, since there's a new remake of the anime coming this fall, so you can wait a few days and watch that anime itself, but I honestly recommend watching the original anime first to experience exactly what's so good about it. If you're still genuinely doubted on why you should watch the anime, then let me sum up what I said in a few words. Higurashi is one of those once-in-a-lifetime anime that manages to do mystery and horror in the correct way. It's an anime that shows a part of the mystery through the eyes of each character and then increases its scope as the narrative proceeds. And each of these characters views the mystery in their own perspective and beliefs. And along all these perspectives and beliefs comes horror, as the mystery transforms them into their worst selves imaginable, and through our eyes we witness the horror of their transformation and leave the episode with a genuinely disturbed feeling. If American TV shows have Haunting of Hill House, then we anime fans can proudly say, we have Higurashi When They Cry. And crying is the last thing you'll be doing after watching this anime. So, are you planning on watching this anime? Then it's best not to keep this as the anime you watch before you sleep. Anyway, if you have watched Higurashi, then let us know what you liked about it in a spoiler-free way, and if you're planning to watch it, then grit your teeth and get ready for some mind-blowing horror. As usual, stay subscribed to us to watch more videos like this and have some great nightmares, fans, and I'll see you in the next video.